Welcome, Phantom Files. Jason, welcome back, my guy. We're here
And this is Kyle.
Steve. Listen, they know me. I'm an internet celebrity, don't you know?
And welcome our
special guest, Rebecca from...
Where are you from, Rebecca?
Antietam Paranormal Society.
Antietam. Now, it's around Maryland, correct?
Or yeah, West we're Virginia, in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Hagerstown, Maryland. Okay.
Excelente. Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, give us a brief little overview of the group, what you do, kind of quick little bits and bytes about your career in the spooky field.
Well, we started our team in 2008 here in Maryland, and we've been investigating continuously ever since. I obviously have been the leader of the team. I'm the case manager and one of the co-founders. So I've led the team since 2008. I don't really know what else to say about us other than we do pretty much anything. We're more researchers than we are ghost hunters or just paranormal investigators. I do a lot of research on the more in-depth aspects of the paranormal.
Okay. I would say that personally, we're more of the investigative. We do research where we go, but we then investigate the locations that we go to.
Yeah, we definitely vibe with that a lot because we tend to take a lot more scientific and methodical approach to investigation versus pure spectacle and kind of
going off of feeling, going off of emotion. We 100% try our best to be unbiased and use a scientific mindset to be able to either prove there's evidence or debunk what other people are claiming.
Right.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I think, leading into that a little bit, for us, initially, our team was like exclusively science-based, like facts. We were trying to document, if we didn't see it on camera or we didn't get it on audio or, our equipment, it wasn't something to us. We didn't deal with psychics. We didn't deal with any type of extrasensory perception. But then that all kind of started to shift when I actually started to, I know everybody, it's like a cliche anymore. Everybody's got abilities, but I started developing some sort of ability, and my, being very logical was like, what is this? So I started researching, ESP, all the different psychic abilities. And I try to look at that, like, how am I receiving this? I look at it, a kind of a scientific standpoint. Why do I have these abilities and how does it, fit in with what I've always done with my team? So that's why I do a lot of like poltergeist research and diving into like Rhine and all of the different cards and everything like that. To me, I want to know more and how it interacts with the spirits that we have.
Okay.
On locations.
Okay, that's definitely deeper than what we have done.
I would say that like it kind of opened my eyes a lot, and I have this huge theory on the paranormal that I don't even share on my page. I've never shared it publicly with anyone. I talk about it with my team and some people that are close to me, but it didn't hit me until I did everything metaphysical, philosophy, and all the different aspects of the paranormal. So I think it opened doors for me that I didn't have open before.
Okay. Awesome. That's definitely a good way of going about it. I know a lot of people, myself included, I'll basically look at what claims are there, and that's what I'll go off of, and I'll try and investigate deeper into it, like find other people who may have had some instance or occurrence happen to them, but beyond that, I haven't really thought to look theologically or ideologically about it.
And sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you go ahead.
I was more or less curious since you mentioned that you kind of started off purely scientific. Kind of what I know you just mentioned you don't want to share the theory, so we can definitely keep that secret. But was there kind of like a defining moment or and just an experience or something that made you start to see things in that different view and start to explore the other side that we personally haven't had that same experience with? Was there any pivotal moment?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you start to experience things that you really can't understand, I thought I was crazy. And I guess a lot of people would say, well, she's crazy. She sees spirits, or she talks to things, or she's starting to see things in her head. I mean, obviously, you immediately think, oh, is she schizophrenic, or does she have some sort of disorder or something, So that was initially, I was like, what is wrong with me? So when I initially just verbalized what I was sensing or feeling or seeing, things got weird. And everybody on my team would say the same thing, because we didn't share this kind of stuff. Like, people didn't talk about it on our team. It was all, what's on paper, what's on digital. There was no discussing your feelings or things like that. I mean, obviously we'd say like, it's cold, over here. Like, we got sensations like that, but it wasn't like, I'm seeing a man in here who looks like he's in his 50s from the 1960s, So when you start experiencing things and you see this stuff, it was like, okay, what do I do about this now? So for me, I finally realized I think I had to get into the paranormal, learn to be an investigator so that I could actually start sensing these things. And I was not so freaked out by it that I could actually start, accepting that I do have some sort of ability. And trust me, I still am very skeptical of my own ability, but you have to learn just not to doubt yourself when you see something. I was validated at an Oddfellows Lodge, and when I saw this man and I described him to somebody who lived right next door, she immediately knew who he was. And she even told me some things about him that I hadn't said that I saw him do. He kept, when I started verbalizing what he looked like, he kept throwing his arms up in the air. And when I told her about that, when she told me, he used to do this thing where he'd throw his arms up the air so we would imitate him. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I told my team that, but I didn't share that with her. So she validated that something that I hadn't spoken to her about actually had happened. So it was weird. And I'd say that wasn't a pivotal moment, but for me to be validated that there was something going on, maybe like deep dive down into what is this and how can I use it to help myself on investigations. I don't use it all the time, though.
Speaking of that, like, honestly, it's usually after an investigation or after the first night of an investigation when we'll actually talk about any kind of experiences we may have had. I guess, in a way, we're trying to eliminate some sort of bias or some sort of like confirmation bias kind of thing.
And like recency bias. There's a lot of, when it's fresh in your mind, you kind of, all the adrenaline and everything can kind of do that. But speaking of that, that's kind of interesting because, we did bring along our resident psychic friend to the last investigation.
Yeah.
And me being the absolute resident skeptic, like all the way, I barely believe in ghosts at all, to be fair, but she was pulling out some...
Yeah. If you want, I'll actually explain this. We're going to have her on later. But so basically we went to a place called Stonewall Manor. It was built in 1828 and finished in 1830 for a guy named Bennett Bunn and his family. They were apparently big landowners at the time in Nash County, North Carolina. Or Edgecombe County, one or the other. I don't remember exactly. But so for this investigation, the caretaker wanted me to go in first after signing basically a waiver and go in, and he would go through every room with his camera just to make sure everything is as how he left it before, and that's how he expected it to be when he returned in the morning. And he took me through every room and told me who passed away where, their ages, that kind of thing. And so next thing that happened is I go back outside. I tell them all to come in except for the medium, and for them to take the history lesson and the short tour and find out what all happened. And while they're doing that, they've already signed their waiver. They go in and they, listen to the caretaker. I'm sitting on the porch and I'm asking the medium what all she's feeling. If she's getting anything, and she is literally hitting everything head on the nail, or nail on the head.
Yeah, we get what you're going for,
and it's wild. Like I personally, I am a skeptic of mediums. Honestly, I really am. To me,
trust me, I am too.
It's got to be something. To me, it's got to be something that's proven to me. And I don't know exactly why. I know I have my own hesitancy in believing in mediumship. So for her to literally turn around and hit every nail on the head.
It definitely. I think we both were like, raised eyebrow, like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There might be something to this that we just don't understand.
Well, and it's literally not an exact science. It's not like, and I feel honestly, this is, I always say, step into my weird. I've always been able to read auras, and I didn't know what that was until I realized when I was reading like a basic psychic development book, the colors associated with the aura. And I was like, okay, weirdly enough, I've always associated people with a color. And it's like, I could just see it around them. And I never thought about it. Like to me, I was just like, it was just maybe one of my weird psychological things that I just did, associating. Sorry, my son's been running through here.
No, you're fine. I hate to kind of like, hold on. Curious question. Are you able to see auras, say, through the internet, like with me and Kyle where we're sitting now? Because I
can.
Okay.
No.
It's not like I don't know. These are things that I'm curious about.
Understand.
So literally, it's something I want to learn about. Because as someone who can't see auras, it's something that I would like to figure out if there's actually something to it. I know there was a thing, we've talked about these before, aura glasses, which is dicyanin something that's put between two lenses, and you're supposed to be able to see aura, but it's like $60. I don't want to blow $60 on a pair of glasses.
I want to say there's a lady that's near me. She's a psychic medium, and she has them, and she does like workshops with that. I don't really like, to me it's kind of a bag of tricks, and I don't like to do it on a whim. So I would sometime for you, maybe once I get more comfortable, but
that might be something that we could actually do as an experiment.
We'll talk about it a little more. Yeah.
No, I'm just
we apologize for putting you on the spot, but we were mostly just curious if that was something that you have been able to do necessarily. So
I can relate with anybody. Sometimes even like after I talk to somebody for a little while, it's an energy thing. So it really has to do with a person's energy. But no, that's one of the things that like I just learned. And again, I have not even tried to develop that ability. It's not like I'm going to learn every layer of your aura. Some people can do that. I'm just kind of like, whatever, tell my husband, you're red. Sorry.
So auras have like layers. Green. Onions have layers.
Okay,
well, I mean, your aura, your aura pretty much starts with your physical body, and then it goes out from there, like your beliefs and your personality and your emotions, and like it. Okay. It actually sits kind of far out from your body, but yeah, that's like a whole other topic.
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. So I think our main topic for the evening was supposed to be etiquette in the paranormal, in investigating paranormal.
How about etiquette during interviews, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I literally put you on the spot.
Whatever you want.
It wasn't intentional. It was just my curiosity immediately went squirrel. So
hey, in joke, I like it.
Not just the in joke. Everybody does squirrels, man. Come on.
Oh, yep. They're the best.
Pause.
Squirrels are the best.
No, God.
But you see what I mean about tangents. Like, you could talk about any subject with me, and I will go off into, like, left field.
All right.
Pretty much.
Well, I'm at a loss, because now I'm still thinking about auras. Oh yeah, I'm just,
I had one last random question before we divulge, and you don't have to go into super detail, but I'm just kind of curious. Have you started to? Because I feel like some television personalities give off a big vibe anyway. But have you started to notice, being able to sense anything coming through, like in a like in a television show or something that's, or even like a live. Gotcha. I kind of figured it would require at least some interaction because that gives far more someone's personality than just a speaking piece. But
Well, one of the things what I was going to say when I hit on the aura is that I feel like I can read people better than I can actually do like medium. So some people with us, like they'll go in a location and they can tell you like every spirit because they know what energy level they are, the energy for something that is crossed over or something that earthbound, or they can tell the difference, or even that a living person had come through. So some psychic mediums they can pinpoint it. I'm more like I could watch the TV show and I could tell you that guy is full of crap. They're not being genuine at all. They're not authentic. Like even like when you watch movies and stuff, I can see people and it's like, that guy's bad news, So I can't really like watch Ghost Adventures or watch like Ghost Hunters or any of those shows and tell you, oh, there's a male in there with them. And I don't really sense that myself. No, not that you can't, I don't know, this is just me.
okay.
that's interesting. So we've dug that well a little too dry. Let's transition into this.
So the main topic, etiquette during paranormal investigations. So for you and your team, like, do y'all have a set of like protocols that y'all go through during each investigation, and like you have to hit off on these things throughout the investigation just to make sure everything is copacetic?
Well, I honestly had thought about what I would say because I knew you were going to ask that question. I feel like with our team, we have a very we have a very rigid protocol. I'll be honest, because again, when you introduce things like people's psychic impressions or sensing spirits, or basically just analyzing stuff that we get from listening to a spirit box or listening to audio, or if you use a flashlight and the flashlight's going on and off, or if a REM pod's going on, everything that we do is so like questionable, that we have to have some sort of basic protocol or standard with our investigations so that when we're analyzing stuff, we know we did it the right way. So we have rules for all of our team, like what people, making sure that people wear appropriate clothing, make sure people are on time. That for me is like, reputation is everything to me in this field.
We've definitely had some issues with at least one person not even showing up for the investigations after, they said they were going to go on. It's like, okay.
And that's interesting. I hear that a lot. I have actually been with a lot of other teams on investigations, and it's interesting to see how other teams, they may be more relaxed and our team may be very rigid, but we have our protocols in place for a reason. We have our guidelines, our criteria for, how people can act on investigations for a reason. So if somebody didn't show up and they said they'd be off the team.
Yeah.
Like, we're very strict and not everybody can handle it because they don't like that. They don't like being told, sorry, you can't participate because you can't, meet the obligation that you set for yourself in the beginning when you join the team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, mostly when we have etiquette, it's like not interrupting people, making sure that you tag audio, making sure that like if you walk near a camera, you introduce yourself to the camera, because if you walk near it and we don't know that you're nearby and you don't say, hey, Becky, walking through the kitchen area, if you don't do that, then there's the potential that you're going to have footsteps. Well, who was in there? You didn't keep track of it.
No one evidence.
Especially if you don't have like motion tracking cameras and you just have like a trail cameras like how we started. It would start with motion, but if they already blew past the camera, you're like, why did this thing go off?
Right. So, I mean, we're pretty old school. We still have the same DVR system from 2010. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of like, feel like a boomer when I talk about this. Like, I like that equipment. I don't like the new stuff. I've got a new system and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I don't know why.
There's a bit of not everything newer is better, particularly. And I mean, it really depends on exactly what its use is for, because sometimes newer stuff can be a little bit overcomplicated or introduce layers of fail or points of failure. I would say, especially being, digital is great and all, but sometimes digital can have its drawbacks.
Yes.
Particularly, you're fine. I was just saying, particularly DVR systems. They've been a pretty rigid or pretty solid technology. They got it pretty right at the start. So besides just having higher fidelity cameras, I don't see too much need to go beyond, like you said, tech from the late 2000s, really.
Yeah.
As long as it's reliable.
Well, it's Zomoto. I don't know if you've ever worked with them. And I'll be honest, like, I don't even know what the name of the new one that we have is. That one, the Zomoto, was always perfect. Like, they have software that came with it and it works just fine. The new one, again, I don't remember what it's called, but it makes a lot of sound if the lights go on or off, or if there's any interference with light. The cameras make a really loud sound. It's an NVR system, so it's, network related. All of the information is compressed, so it's harder to get off of it. And it's just been a fiasco. Not to mention their mounts were different. So I had to create new mounts to go on tripods, and oh my God, it was not worth it. We'll just put it that way.
So your new system, the one that has all these kinks, we'll say, that have not been worked out.
Are you kink shaming right now?
No. I was actually going to ask if you could send me a link to that so I know not to buy that thing.
Yeah, I think it's actually XVIM. That just popped in my head. I think that's, yeah. Well, you figure there's like 50 million different brands and nobody knows any of them.
Yeah, the one I'm seeing mostly now is ZOSHI, Zoshi or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
So weird. But they do have a difference between DVR and NVR, so.
Well, we don't do lives. Our investigations are sealed. So there's another etiquette for us. We don't do live stuff. I feel like introducing the public into it brings a whole different energy to the team. And our team dynamic is extremely important on investigations. We get along like a little family. We all have the same sense of humor. Even though our religious beliefs are different, our political beliefs are different, we work really well. So again, introducing the team won't even allow outside investigators a lot of times. So it can be complicated for us. We're a little bit antisocial.
Well, I mean, it's understandable. You don't want contamination of your evidence if you do catch anything. Not only that, but like you don't want, for someone to come on an investigation and then later say that you can't use their likeness on film. That brings up issues, which reminds me I need to get waivers.
I'm a waiver.
Goofball. But yeah, I mean, it brings up other issues that you just don't necessarily need.
Right. I think we did a live years ago. The team dynamic was totally different. And we had a lot of people like saying certain things, and it was just like, we don't want this.
Yeah.
It was intrusive. It was distracting. And I feel like because people were kind of showing off for the camera, it just didn't work out.
Yeah. That's definitely understandable too. I know one of the things that we were doing before we basically kind of collapsed was we would go around, with our cameras and stuff, and we would film basically everything. And at one point, we were trying to make it a little bit more marketable. That's when, Sterling had you step to the side and ask you questions or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of weird asking someone questions on the spot about something that they just did and it not necessarily reflect what was actually going on. It's kind of weird.
Right.
It's hard to put into words.
We're still growing with it though, so
we're fairly new. And then we've had major setbacks, so.
Well, I'd say the newbies, sometimes I like having brand new investigators, ones that have never done anything on the team because they're so excited. Like, they give me that spark back, like, man, I was like that once. Now I'm just kind of like, here we go again.
That's true with pretty much any field. Sometimes it's good to have that new blood. You feel that excitement again.
Oh yeah. Oh man, they've never done this. Let's help them along and see what they think.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
well, any other etiquette? I actually pulled up my. I have a notebook that I like. Everything on my Facebook, I have it written down.
Nice.
So, like I just said about wearing appropriate clothes, being on time, bringing necessary equipment. I can't tell you how often people show up. So I helped guide a ghost hunt at Trans-Allegheny in the outer buildings. It's the geriatrics, medical, and forensics buildings. And I had a couple show up and they didn't bring anything but their phones, and their phones were both on 30%. There's no electricity in these buildings. And I'm thinking, like, what did you think you were doing? This is a 6-hour investigate or ghost hunt. Like,
well, I guess for the next 5.5 hours, we're literally just going to put our hands in our pockets and go, yep, something's going on here.
No, they followed us around because we had, equipment and they had flashlights. So they were with us pretty much most of the night. But I mean, that happens on investigations. Like, people don't bring a flashlight. They don't bring a recorder, which for us, every investigator is required to bring their own recorder. And they're required to do investigation reports off of that recording. So they actually put down their feelings, where we were at, if they experienced anything, if they got any EVPs. Some of them have cameras that they carry with them, but we usually have handhelds for each because we separate off into 2 teams usually. So Each team has a camera, a handheld that they kind of record everything.
How many members would you say that your team currently has?
Roughly.
We have 8 current members. One is on a leave of absence, and I'm sure she's coming back. My husband and my daughter are on the team. My husband's a truck driver, so he's never around. So he's kind of just a figurehead now. He's a co-founder, so we keep him around he's hilarious. If you ever meet him, he's a lot of fun. My daughter's 17. She's got a lot of school stuff going on. So 5 people on our team are actually active.
Okay. Sounds a lot like our team currently.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it can be tricky sometimes because tomorrow we're doing a private residence and we can only take 4 people.
Yeah.
So kind of leave somebody out a little bit, but.
So since you were talking about bringing necessary equipment, we actually just did an interview with one of our team members who develops equipment, works on equipment, fixes stuff for other people.
He's an electronics head.
Yes, he's actually an engineer. What, in terms for your team, what is necessary equipment that each member should have?
They should always have a flashlight, and we always want them to have a red and white flashlight. Some locations, if you are 2 in a small space and you have the DVR going or a camera going and you're doing something with a white flashlight, it's constantly compromising that IR. So we always tell them use red. It doesn't bother anything. Now you can't see anything with a red, but it's at least some help. It also doesn't really hurt your eyes that much. A voice recorder. We don't really have specifications, but a lot of us have Tascam recorders. That's it, basically. A recorder and a flashlight are what is required.
Okay. That's actually not much. So that makes it easier for some people to get into the paranormal field if they want to.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right. So another question I have is, what about education? When it comes to educating yourself for the paranormal field, what would you recommend are some of the best places to be able to do that?
Oh gosh. Honestly, have you ever, what is it? Ghost Hunting for Dummies or something? I always tell people, go grab that book. It's got history.
The For Dummies books are great.
It does, but the Ghost Hunting for Dummies book, the newest one, I wouldn't recommend it because it mostly has like Zach Baggins all over it. All over it.
Well, this one doesn't. The one that I have doesn't.
Okay.
Sweet. So
I have a couple copies. Yeah, I have a couple copies, and sometimes I lend them out. But I'll be honest, I always tell people to, we train them. I mean, we talk. So when we have our meetings, a lot of time we'll like pick a topic, but lately it's kind of become a squirrel where the topic just pops up and we can't stop talking about it. But really, they can learn a lot just being on our team. Or even going to our page. I'm the only.
That's where I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, I'm the only one that does anything with it. But I also have like a training guide for them. It's all part of because I have a guidebook for them. So when people join the team, they get our membership criteria, like the requirements, how many investigations you have to do, how many meetings you have to make. We have Adopt a Highway. That's a requirement for them to be part of the team. It just keeps people honest. And, if they see that and they're like, oh, I can't devote this time, we know that we're not the right team for them. But they get a whole training guide in it, how to set up the cameras, how to, what kind of questions you might want to ask when you're doing an EVP session. But a lot of the other stuff is just hands-on. So they're learning this right on the investigation. And we have like 2 or 3 places that we can take people and do training. My brother-in-law if you've ever seen me talk about the Glade Valley Mill, it's this giant red building. My brother-in-law owns it. So I can go there and take people whenever I want. Now, he doesn't allow people that are outside of our team because it's not in the best shape, but we take them there. We teach them how to do, set up the cameras. We teach them about EMF and how things react to location. It's even better because there's no electricity in it. None.
That's awesome.
So, well, not in the upper floors. Like the 4th floor of it is no electricity. The 2nd and the 1st has it. So,
okay.
But other than that, I mean, I tell them go out there and read everything. Watch TV shows because a lot of times those are the ones like do the opposite of whatever they do on the TV shows. I tell them Ghost Hunters, the original, is probably the closest to what we do than anything else. But it's kind of a trial by error thing.
It really is. That's one of the things that I've noticed is that, sometimes we'll go on investigations. We might have 1 or 2 people that have never been on an investigation before. This has happened once. And literally, we'll give them an EMF detector and say, hey, go get a baseline. Go walk around and see if anything spikes anywhere. And then once the power's out, go do it again just to make sure. So that area that may have spiked, you may not be active now, whatever. And, some people just may not understand what you're talking about. So that's another thing that you just have to be hands-on. Right.
Well, during our investigations, one of the first things that we do, especially in training, is obviously the setup, but then we do the baseline readings. We don't do them every single time in a location because sometimes we go for research purposes. We don't even want to access the area until we go out to investigate. So we won't do anything until so we don't have a baseline at the beginning. But it's great for, like you said, you give them an EMF detector and a thermometer and send them out so that they can see how, the locations, how things, the sources that you can find, the drafts or whatever. So they can kind of see like what they need to know before they set a piece of equipment down, like a K2 meter in an area that has like a pulse of electricity going through it. A really good example, we used to do a Masonic temple in Hagerstown, and there was a dressing room above a stage, and people would like to sit their K2 meter, I don't know why I keep saying it like that, in the middle of the floor. And we had to tell them constantly, right there where you keep putting that, there is a refrigerator that was, it was probably from the 1950s. And the way the electricity, Yeah, and it would pulse, and you knew exactly, like, right before it would turn on, it would start running, because the K2 meter would go all the way to red, and then you'd hear it start to drone.
Yeah, you hear the motor in it.
Yeah, so, like, sending them up there with an EMF detector to kind of, go around, and you would just keep them up there for a little bit, which, here we go, here's the squirrel. An interesting situation at that same place. We were doing the first investigation of the temple, and we were on the basement level. It had a third, second, first, basement, and sub basement. But we were on the basement level, and we were near a bathroom area. And one of our investigators got this, like, 1 foot around pocket of EMF. Like, everything was like a 0.3, like nothing. It wasn't really, it was normal. Everything was normal. But in the middle of this hallway, nowhere near any type of wiring, outlets, nothing, there was this ball of it was like a 12. So she stopped and she said, Becky, come, which everybody calls me Becky, come check this out. So I had already swept through there with my thermometer, and the temperature in the area was around, like, I would say 54 to 56 degrees. Well, when I went over, now obviously you have to make sure that you're not pointing it at anything, because even ambient thermometers, if there's somebody nearby, taking up that area and warming that space, heat. It's going to, So I made sure that I checked the temperature going all the way up to it. Well, this ball where she had, because she tried to find a source, couldn't find it, but it stayed there in that area for probably 5 minutes. But I was able to go kind of all the way around her, take the temperature, and get to this area. She stepped away, and the temperature had increased to about 64 degrees. So it was like, well, this is strange. Now, maybe it's just you. So we stood there, and we kept taking, the measurements back and forth. And it stayed, like I said, it stayed there for 5 minutes and then just vanished.
Oh, wow. Did you ever find anything that would actually cause that, or?
No. Because, again, there was nothing like if you could see this hallway there, it's like 6 feet wide, and the ceilings were really high in that building. So it didn't make any sense. We couldn't find any sources. So we just kind of like jotted it down as maybe, because I've never found that spirits actually really increase or decrease or do anything with EMF. I haven't found that. We have had situations at West Virginia Penitentiary where they were able to get something to increase it, but I've never had anything happen where I've sat there and watched the EMF rise from something saying they did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. 9 times out of 10, you usually won't. It's usually some sort of anomalous thing like that. One of my favorite things is using an EMF detector and going. We go to a place called the Devil's Tramping Grounds, and it's one of my favorite places because it's just for me, it's calming. For everybody else, it kind of not everybody. Some people get freaked out by it, and I don't understand why.
It's like a glorified campsite at this point.
Yeah. But I'll go out there and I'll put my EMF detector, on the ground, and every once in a while it will spike. Now that could be from our phones or whatever, but when you're 20 feet away, everybody's at least a good distance away, and you're seeing it spike, go down, spike again, and stay continually moving. That definitely gives you some sort of pause.
What kind of EMF detector?
Just a normal K2 that you can get off like.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Guys, yeah.
Well, our what we were using at the Masonic Temple was actually one of those Lutron 822As. It's what ghost hunters used to use years ago. It is kind of like industrial grade, like electricians would use it.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we've used that, just sat it out with other items, kind of, to validate, like if you've got a REM pod or something, kind of validate, what it's getting. And we've just never gotten anything to increase it.
Okay.
Even with the K2 sitting next to it, like the K2 will go off, but so it's like, what? Yeah, the ever loving question. What are we picking up on?
So, speaking again, that we've had, our engineer buddy who's on our team, we've cracked open the EMF, the K2 meters, like the one that Kyle just pulled up a minute ago. And it's just a normal PCB. It doesn't have anything like programmed into it that we can find that would make it go off periodically or anything. So for it to pick up anything just from a sensor, it can be anomalous, but it could also be that there is static electricity in the area, but it would have to be higher voltage to be able to set it off. So
it also could be that the sensitivities on each individual device aren't fine-tuned like they would be on her device. So they could be either oversensitized, desensitized. I don't imagine.
The axis thing, like the poles.
Oh, true. From what direction too?
Exactly.
I don't imagine there's too much quality control that goes into a $15 plastic housing with lights.
Yeah.
But
no.
But indeed,
I mean, it's again, that's our question all the time. Like, what are we picking up on? Now, I know there's so many aspects to the paranormal investigation that you could actually add in and read and keep data for, but it's like after a while, like you may go insane trying to keep track of every single detail.
That is true.
For a little bit, my entire thing was try and find some sort of like weather station with a data logger, so that way we can put sensors in multiple rooms and try and figure out what it actually is that we're getting. Because, if we go into someone's house and they have a draft, then we'll feel the draft. But if we go into someone's house and something starts happening, and it's not like a knock in the pipes or something, but like you have a cold spot, it could be a barometric pressure drop. It could actually be a temperature drop in that area and not necessarily be a draft. So it's something that I want more information.
Definitely getting there.
We do have to say we are actually coming to the end of this.
I do have one final question to go out on, though. I didn't want to end it right there, but you've actually given... It's okay. That's why you're the puppy. Kidding. But you've actually you've dropped some really good hints. I wanted your opinion as someone with the experience that you've had for newbies looking to get into the field. You've mentioned things like possibly going on looking if they have to look up visual media. Maybe look back in like the very first Ghost Hunters and also the Ghost Hunting for Dummies. But if someone wants to take that first step and and go on their first thing, what are some steps that you, or just a general beginner tip, like maybe like just 2 quick tips for someone that wants to make that jump and get into the world?
Well, first, if they've never done anything with anyone, the first thing is to try to find somebody trustworthy, like a team, a mentor, somebody else that might be interested, that kind of knows the ropes a little bit, that can help you out. Now, obviously, we know that there's lots of drama in the field, so it can be hard sometimes to really know who to bring into your life and is not going to totally mess it up. But definitely find somebody that you trust to mentor you. 2, just literally absorb everything. Go to like the pay to play places and do the ghost hunts, take a friend with you, just experience and meet other people while you're there. Don't just do your own little thing. Because we met a team called Eidolon Paranormal from Michigan when we did West Virginia Penitentiary the first time. And they were amazing. Like they literally took us under their wing, never saw them again, never talked to them again, but they were the most amazing people. I met Jenny Stewart, who had a local investigation group in Mount Airy, Maryland, when I was looking up Henryton Sanatorium down in, I can't even remember where it was located at, but like meeting up with her, she was amazing. Like, just little things that you can do, little people that you can meet, reading every book that you can find, look up articles, look at blogs, just literally absorb everything. Because after a while, you kind of get a sense for what you believe and what you don't believe. And, and I feel like the longer you do this stuff, you develop an intuitive sense. So then you can just make your own way, really. And unfortunately for me, I did meet all of these people in the beginning, but I met a lot of people back when we first started by myself that were literally like, nope, Nope. And I don't want to be that way myself, but sometimes, like, my team sometimes holds me back. Like, I'd love to take everybody and teach everybody, but
True.
that's why I have this Facebook page, so that I can share all of that knowledge without somebody going on the investigation with us.
And I do have to say, you definitely dropped some knowledge bombs.
Heck yeah.
I try.
And thank you so much. Speaking of that, we'll make sure to have everything linked down in our descriptions below. We'll have this up on our Patreon and then YouTube, usually the week after. And from us here, we want to give you a big thank you so much for coming on Phantom
thank you so
Files
much.
with us. We love having you.
Thanks for having me.
You. And we would like to have you back eventually.
For sure. For sure.
Awesome. All right.
You
Thank
the
you.
best. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful night.